one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering community for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast. The podcast where we delve into those salty mines of the Magic the Gathering community.
Sometimes you get like very close to that being like an MTG Goldfish moment.
I was thinking that the other day when I was listening to, I think it was the intro to episode 101, the one we just did. I got like really high pitched with it. But yeah, it's the podcast where we delve into those salty minds of the Magic the Gathering community. And we find, what do we find in there? Well, we find the saltiest stories and the saltiest posts, and we put them in our minecart. And then after that, we bring them up to you, our dear prospectors at home. And then you get to listen to them in a podcast format.
He's going off script, folks.
Yeah, he's just ad-libbing. He's ad-libbing. Someone take the mic away. He's become drunk with power.
You cannot stop me. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Mike and Tony. Say hey, guys.
What up?
Hey guys.
Hey guys, indeed.
I almost said hey guys there because you really said it with such like say hey guys, and I was like, oh, maybe I should do that, but I was like, nah, bro, it's not for me. I knew Mike would do it, and he did.
Yeah, leave the low-hanging fruit to me on that one, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'll sweep up.
And as always, before we go any further, we gotta shout them out. Our nice tier patrons, and this week we have Alex Ballix, Crean Bean, Hephaestus Bolts, Prime Speaker Florian, Yafe D. Tudge. Look at me now. I'm fucking saying it right.
Wow.
literally only took like 10 episodes.
Yeah.
It was way longer than 10.
And a certain number of dollars.
Yeah. Dr. Black, Accidental TPK, and Royal Flood. Thanks for being so nice, everybody. Appreciate your support.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Well, guys, I really want to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh today.
No.
Tinker, tuning, summoning is
I play
pretty
Pot
cool.
of Greed and draw 3 cards.
That's what it do, Yugi.
No, it's not. It's not what it does.
That is what it does. That's a little callback. That's what we call a callback in the biz here, folks. Callback to the episode where we talked about Yu-Gi-Oh instead of the Modern Horizons leaks, which was really a political move because that would have gotten us dragged over the coals had we talked about illegally leaked cards. But now that we have so many legal released preview cards,
oh, he's killing it. This guy's just out here ad-libbing and nailing it every time.
Hit me with that knee slapper there.
Now that we have a bunch of released cards, let's fucking talk about them, guys. This set seems kind of nuts.
Yeah. I mean, it's like every Modern Horizons set. It's like Easter eggs slapped on a little dash of extra mechanical support for, a couple themes out there and busted. That's the whole point. A little bit like the whole point of Modern Horizons is that they want some of these cards to make it into Modern. And in order for that to happen, they have to be on par with some of the other most like incredibly busted, pushed stuff that's out there. So that's what we've got. We've got a bunch of pushed and busted and really good cards.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking cracked cards in this set. In addition to a bunch of just like insane reprints, we're seeing a lot of wild cards printed into Modern. First, just to preface everything, I do not know enough about Modern to talk about how these things are
going to say that.
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
Actually, I'm a Modern pro, so I think I will be very informative in this discussion.
Yeah,
I know nothing about Modern.
I don't even think you've seen the cards from Modern Horizons 3, Tony. I don't even know if you'll be useful in discussion from that perspective.
That's sort of valid.
Pull it up, Tony.
Excuse me while I open another window in my browser.
just in case listeners haven't caught on to this, we don't really do set reviews. We don't do like full talking about them, but sometimes the cards are really fun, and we're going to talk about them a little bit here and there. But you'll still get your salty stories. Fear not.
Oh yeah, exactly. This isn't a set review. We're just fucking stoked, you know?
What are they, jet diamonds or jet?
Yep. The medallions.
The medallions. Those, the borderless full art ones. Those were released in this, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
The one thing Tony knows.
I saw those and I was like, yo, I'm literally going to buy all of those. I don't care how much they are. I'm hoping they're not that much. I feel like they're not honestly like super useful cards, to be honest. They're like very deck specific. Like only the monocolor decks really want to run them. But they looked pretty. And I was like, I want all 5 of them.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
I don't know. The jet medallion one is kind of icky.
Yeah, but it's meant to be. I like it.
I think it's fucking cool. It's like a popped out eyeball.
It's cool, but it spook.
Is.
Ugh, gross.
Real quick, right off the bat, like a bunch of fetches are getting reprinted, which is pretty fucking hot.
Are they full art?
I have no idea, but they are being reprinted. There's a bunch of like other interesting legendary creatures that are being reprinted. Like this set has really cool reprints, and I think a lot of them are like printing things into modern for the first time, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, a lot of that.
So I'm not sure how that's going to affect things. In general, I just have like a quick comment about like Modern Horizons products. I think they're kind of polarizing. I think even within the modern community, maybe especially within the modern community, people get pretty grumpy about just having like a fuck ton of busted shit dumped right into their formats. The one thing I know about Modern is that the meta is a little bit stale right now. So I think people are hyped for like what's coming to Modern, but also at the same time, like you said, Mike, for stuff to be eligible to get played in Modern, you got to print pushed bullshit and slam it all right into the set at once. Like this is the set that got us Esper Sentinel, fetches were printed in MH2, Yavimaya was printed. Like there's a lot of powerful shit that came out of that set.
It's kind of like what we talked about with CGB with like standard, where every time a new set comes out, there's like a big shakeup, or there's these like standard moments where like the meta totally shakes up. And the whole point of Modern is sort of that it's like this evergreen format, so it doesn't have those as much. And this is like injecting a little bit of standard feeling into Modern generally, like because it's enough that it shakes things up. I mean, if we think about Modern Horizons 2, like that had Hogak, that had like entirely format breaking cards printed into it. So we'll definitely.
Was that 2? That wasn't 1?
Maybe that was 1. I thought that was 2, but maybe it's just because I have no idea when the sets come out.
Hogak was Modern Horizons 1, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Bitch.
Wow. Things are crazy. Things are crazy.
I ripped him in a fucking pack, baby.
Yeah. And then lost a draft deck with him.
Made like a great deck with him. And you admitted that it was a good deck. And somehow I just fucking lost everything.
That means there's piloting error.
Yeah. Sam, take this audio clip and play it back to Mike every time he complains about that one time where Tony crushed him when we drafted Alan's Cube. Thank you. Piloting error.
Oh my God.
Deserved.
So let's talk about some of the cool cards that are coming in. I think the first one that we should talk about are and we're not going to go every single card, everybody. Like we just don't have enough time, nor do we want to spend that much time. But I think the most interesting cycle that's coming that Commander players are really stoked on is the Flare cycle.
Yeah.
So Flare of Fortitude, Denial, Malice, Duplication, and Cultivation in Wooburg order. And basically, each one is an instant speed spell, except for Flare of Cultivation. It's the only sorcery speed one. And generally speaking, they're 2 pips each, and either 3 or 4 mana. And they all have an alternate free casting cost where you can sacrifice a non-token creature of that color rather than pay the mana cost. So for Commander, people are obviously stoked about the Flare of Denial, which is a counterspell. It's just straight up counterspell, costs 1 and 2 blue. And again, you have that sacrifice blue non-token creature alternate cost.
Azami players are just stoked.
Yeah, they're fucking going nuts. Flare of Duplication, I think, is the most wild one for CDH specifically. It's 1 and 2 red, and the effect is copy target instant or sorcery. You can choose new targets for the copy, and you can sacrifice your Rogue Rack to it, which is fucking nuts. So, like, you know, Grixis definitely needed more toys.
For sure, obviously.
And then I think the other interesting one out of this is Flare of Fortitude, which is the white one that costs 2 and 2 white and says until end of turn, your life total can't change and permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible. The interesting thing with this, I mean, obviously, one, you're just going to be able to survive an attack or attack in on somebody really big or survive a board wipe. Like, it's a great save your ass kind of spell. But somebody was talking about the implications for CDH, which would be like sacrificing your Timna to it, and then casting an Adnaz and not losing any life as you Adnaz, and you just draw your entire deck and then you win. Seems pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Seems pretty spicy.
I honestly, I think people are sleeping on the black one as well, which is each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the greatest mana value among creatures and planeswalker they control. I think this one is maybe going to be the most menacing actually in like casual play.
I could see that, yeah.
Because a lot of casual decks, the format is a lot of play small creatures that are going to synergize with your commander, like establish an early board, and then play your commander, which is your biggest guy. And like once that comes down, your plan starts taking off. And this just hits people doing that so quickly. Like everyone's biggest thing out is their commander, and then you remove all of those. It's pretty backbreaking sometimes.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. The one thing I don't like about that is that it's 4 mana normally. Like casting it for 4 mana is kind of a rough rate for what is just an edict effect, you know?
That's true. I don't think you're casting honestly any of these normally. Like if you're putting them in the deck, there's probably a reason that you want to be casting them for free usually.
That's a really good point. I mean, I think in an ideal world, you're not really spending the mana for any of these. And I guess since we've read them all, we should just read the green one. It's a cultivate. So you search for 2 basic land, reveal 1, put 1 onto the battlefield tapped and the other in your hand.
Probably want to sack your Steve when you do it, right?
I don't think so, because Steve needs to sack himself to get that.
I was being
land
very
out.
sarcastic.
Oh. Well, yeah, you're fucking wrong.
No, but I do think there are plays, right, where turn 1 you play land, Lana Wharf, and then
Play that Lana Wharf, baby.
That Lana Wharf.
You slap my Lana Wharf down, then cast it with that to cultivate to rent, you know.
Yeah, like it's pretty solid.
Yeah, you could play a Llanowar, land, Llanowar, second turn land, cast this, get a 3rd land and a land in your hand. I don't know. It's sort of like a neutral ramp.
Well, that's just normal cultivate. The thing is, this is sort of strictly better cultivate, right? Like except for the 1 extra green pip.
Yeah,
that's enough to take away the strict, but it's very close to cultivate with an option to cast for free, which is pretty good. I guess you still can't use it as like an answer for people removing your stuff since it's a sorcery, which is sort of a bummer.
Yeah, I think I don't know.
This card sucks.
Sometimes things like that are a little concerning where I'm like, this is just, again, like you said, not a strictly better upgrade, but it's pretty fucking close to being a better upgrade than Cultivate. Like if you're playing Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, you're probably going to want to cut 1 for Flare of Cultivation. And that isn't like a great design space to me. Like I don't love it when we see a card that is probably going to be expensive and it's just going to like take over the slot of a common.
I don't know that that's very true. I think it's for some decks, it's like the obvious switch because you're like making a bunch of well, no, because it has to be a real creature. It can't be it can't be a token,
which is a great limitation.
I mean, it's kind of hefty to be like, oh, on turn 2 I played a creature, or turn 1 I played a creature. If I played a creature on turn 1, it probably was a mana dork. So it's like I'm going down on that mana to give like myself permanent mana. Like it's safer in some ways, but I don't think it's so black and white there because it is a cost to like sacrifice that creature. I think in CDH or things where you can high power play where you're trying to get stuff in for free faster, like sure, definitely. But in a typical casual deck, I actually think like they can have that and be happy to pay the mana or like sack a creature later in the game. Like that's where the benefit is in my mind.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Are there other cards that you were geeking out about?
Yeah, do you have a couple that you want to mention, Mike?
The other ones I want to talk about are the Eldrazi Titans, because there's a whole new chunk of legendary Eldrazi commanders for people to start messing around with.
They're fucking nuts.
And that's a big deal too, because I feel like there are already a decent number of options, but now it's just like obscene how many options colorless and also Wooburg players have in terms of options to choose for commanders.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Honestly, I am a little weirded out that we are getting a Commander product with Modern Horizons 3. I don't know. People are calling it Commander Horizons 3, which like is true, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Modern Horizon sets have always kind of served Commander players a little bit. MH2 specifically did, like, was really giving Commander a bunch of toys. And like with this new one, it's just so obvious that a lot of the designs were made with Commander players in mind. That's probably just where things are going, you know?
One of the advantages, though, of them printing a separate Commander product in alliance with the actual main Modern Horizons boxes is that the truly Commander targeted stuff gets printed outside of the limited format, which is really nice because, like, it's one of those things where, like, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, they threw big score in, which everyone is like, okay, well, that's just Commander product kind of targeted in here. And it's like, they also had the Commander decks, but hopefully in this case, they'll be able to leave the limited experience a little less packed with some of those just like straight to Commander cards.
Yeah, it's a really good point. A couple other things that just should be mentioned would be like the return of energy. The energy mechanic is kind of wild.
Yeah.
A lot of the cards we're seeing are like version of a broken card, but now it needs a little bit of energy to make it go. Like Volatile Storm Drake is basically Gilded Drake, but the size of the creature you can steal is capped by how much energy you have to spend. And then I think the big one that everyone's thinking of is Chthonian Nightmare.
This card is insane. It's so ridiculous.
We broke dockside.jpg. It's 1 in a black enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy, and then you can pay X energy and sack a creature and return Chthonian Nightmare to your hand and return a creature with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate it only as a sorcery, which is really just like kind of a fixed, quote unquote, fixed version of Recurring Nightmare, which is banned in Commander, but doesn't limit it that much. Like, you're not going to bring back giant chonkers, but there's a lot of small things that are going to go infinite with this, like a lot of them.
There's so many things.
See, that I feel like is like a failure point, right? Like literally just fucking Dockside, right? Like just
like one of the best cards in the format.
Dockside and one other creature. You need Dockside and one other creature.
Sure, but
That's
it's just like such an
mana.
easy thing in the design space now to be like, does this break Dockside more?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that should be the first question any like playtester is asking. Like, how does this interact with Dockside? Which is kind of obnoxious, but like, I just think it is a thing that should be asked. And if it's instantly another thing that fucking pops off at Dockside, do we really fucking need it?
Yeah, but they're not designing. Again, they're not designing for Commander. Like,
yeah, that's the thing.
They aren't. You know,
I feel like that is like true, but also not. They fucking are. Like, Commander is easily the biggest format, easily the largest thing. So they can call it Modern Horizons all they want. It impacts the format in a big way because those cards all get used in Commander. And like, it's a part of how it's set up.
But they're not designing for balance for Commander. Even if they are designing for Commander, they're not designing for competitive balance in Commander. They don't care about that.
No one is designing for that.
No one's designing for that. So the instant response for that will be like, well, then you're probably at the wrong power level. Like, don't play that combo if you think it's unfun. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that will be the response. And I'm not making a judgment on whether or not that makes sense or not. But that is kind of the case. Like, they don't care.
Yeah, I think
about CDH.
that's fair.
You know,
I think that's a fair
in terms of a balance. They're definitely not designing for CEDH balance when they're releasing a Modern Horizons 3 product. And I'm slightly thankful for that because I love busted stuff.
Just a couple more things I just want to quickly mention. So we have MDFCs coming back with Modern Horizons 3, and there's a really awesome cycle of 2-color dual lands. They come in tapped, but they're on an MDFC. So usually it's like a creature, an instant, or a sorcery, or an enchantment. And then on the back side of it is a dual tap land. So if you have any tap lands in your decks, like any generic tap lands in your decks that aren't doing anything else, fucking that's an easy cut and swap. And now you just have another angle that you can play those at. And some of them are fucking good, man. Like Strength of the Harvest is enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each creature and or enchantment you control. It's like almost an all that glitters, and we know how good that is. Also, I'm super stoked for Basking Broodscale, which is the Eldrazi Lizard. It's the one that when one or more +1/+1 counters are put on it, you make a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn that can get sacked for 1 mana. That goes infinite with so much fucking shit,
Just
dude.
so much stuff.
Like, it goes infinite with Rosy Cotton. It goes infinite with Marath and Atarian Soul Cleaver. It goes infinite with so much shit. So I'm fucking stoked for that because it's a Marath card.
For sure. I feel like it's like it kind of turns back to me a little bit. It's like it's that kind of card we've seen so much of. I know it's interesting because it gets you super hype, and I'm just like, just another one of those things.
But it's a brand new effect. It's not another one of those things. Like we don't have anything that does that yet.
I feel like it all feels the same. So maybe even if it's not like exactly like ideal, like I guess in my mind, I'm like, okay, now when that comes down, I also just sit there and twiddle my fingers while Sam fucking like bounces around his counters and shit. I'm like, it's like in the same realm of it, So it's like in my mind, it's just like close enough. I'm like, whatever, don't care. But not to yuck your yum. Like I get how you would be excited about it, but that's like what it feels like to me as like the player that's on the other side of it,
Yeah, I mean, if you don't read what the cards do, I'm sure they all feel the same,
I fucking go. You suck. I think the one thing that I saw from it all that I was excited about was the Warren Soul Trader. I feel like Black's getting a bunch of good shit, which I love.
Yeah.
Oh,
Black
yeah, that
is
card
getting
is
some
cracked.
good stuff.
It's like 2 and a black for a zombie goblin wizard. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, create a treasure token.
Oh.
And I just love instant speed, sack outlets. I love making fucking treasure for doing it. I feel like it's gonna kind of slap. I wish it was a 2/2 to be honest,
For Grenzo,
because then it would go in Grenzo better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those cards that like I've seen what it does, and it comes down on Tony's turn, and he sacks a thing, and I just kind of zone out. And I don't really care. That's how it feels, Tony. No, I'm stoked for that though. I'm fucking putting that in a bunch of decks too.
Yeah, it definitely looks good. And I liked the full art. I think it's coming out in this, the full art Dismember, right?
Oh,
like we haven't seen
dude.
Dismember in a long time. I like that. I do like when they take opportunities like this to take stapley cards that are for like CDH and other things. Like it's for other stuff, but I feel like so much of it's targeted at CDH players because they're already spending buco bucks on things. And so like a lot of them are willing to go buy like fancier versions of cards. And so they're definitely strategic in my mind about how they're doing it. Maybe that's not their actual plan, but I'm one of those fucking people where I'm like, I want that. Like, give me the full art, everything. Like,
yeah. I mean, whether it's CDH or another format, like those powerful cards are played in so many places. So it's just fucking crazy.
That is something I do like that they do that they'll add some reprints and give you the full art that you really wanted. So
yeah, it's wild. And tons of new commanders in this set too that are pretty exciting. I'm pretty stoked on the white and red Elder Giant. It's like the Boros Kroxa, but it's a lightning helix. So when it comes in or attacks, it deals 3 damage to a target and you gain 3 life. Pretty fucking sick. Otherwise, it's just Kroxa.
I think 6 is going to be really, really cool.
Oh, yeah.
It's got reach. When it attacks, you mill 3 cards and you can put a land from among them into your hand. And then as long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. So that starts doing pretty insane things with like a Lotus Petal or like anything that you can pay and sack, or a Steve. If there was a Steve that was a cultivate, boom, you get to play it, sack it, cultivate, then retrace it back out, sack it, cultivate. Like you could just do that over and over again. I'm not sure if there is a permanent that cultivates and sacks like Steve, but that thought, like using the lands in your hand to give everything else in your graveyard retrace is crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty
so
wild.
Nice.
Ian was talking about how that's a really great card for breach decks that are on green.
Yeah,
because you can just recast your breach from your graveyard next turn.
Yep.
Or on the same turn, I guess. Like if you have the mana for it, like it's wild to be able to retry a win con that's so fragile like that. It's pretty cool.
You know what this card does a crazy thing with? Bag of Holding.
I thought you were gonna say Skullwinder.
That too. It's crazy with Skullwinder. It's pretty good with Bag of Holding because you can just pitch all your stuff into retrace and then crack the Bag of Holding and get all your lands back. And then you can play your Bag of Holding back out of your graveyard with retrace and then keep doing it.
Oh my God. Fucking Golgari
Shadow bag, dude. It's also
I think Sam
it's also nuts with Gitrog Monster, of course. If you have Gitrog Monster Dakmore, it starts doing insane stuff because you play anything and then you pitch the land, you draw a card, hopefully you hit another land, you just get to keep looping stuff too. So I think 6 has a lot of really cool potential.
Yeah, some wild shit in there.
Well, should we dive on into the mine?
We probably should. Like,
We should.
Maybe we should do set reviews every once in a while because we've got a lot to talk about. Maybe something for the Patreon.
I want to do like a max an hour talking about the cards set review and not talk about all the cards, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just like decide to talk about it for an hour.
I want to do an 8-hour one where we talk about every card, the commons, the uncommons, the various printings.
How very Luis Scott Vargas of you.
I don't know who that is.
That's one of the limited resources, guys. They do about 8 hours of content every set that comes out.
Really?
Because they go through all of the
Christ.
commons, all of the uncommons, and all of the rares. They
I guess
have like
for
an
limited.
hour and a half episode for, each of the commons.
Good Lord.
Good.
I feel like Command Zone is basically doing that now too with all the fucking, they're like, this is what's good in the 99. These are the new commanders. These are the new commander decks. This is the specific commander product. And the good cards that are there is how you upgrade your decks. It's like, ooh, baby. And we just read salty stories, man.
We didn't even talk about Winter Moon, which is the top nominee for breaking into the top 10 salty cards.
Oh, yeah. Players can't untap more than one non-basic land during their untap steps. And then there's also the not blood moon, the water moon.
Blued Moon, finally, for real.
Yeah, blue moon. I guess that's what it would be.
Blue
Yeah.
moon. Fuck that
Oh,
shit.
The Belgian white.
Boom, 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 the blue moon.
And then there's the Bauble that counters all spells that have
Oh,
no
that's
mana
fucking
cast to
sick,
cost
dude.
them and
Yeah.
pays 1 to draw a card.
Yeah, that's sick. Because you can
Ridiculous.
crack it away, man. That's like,
Absolutely
God.
insane.
fucking problem. Yeah. And then there's all the fucking new flip walkers too. There's some crazy shit. Power balance. Oh, all right. Enough of this. We
Enough.
It's too much. We can't.
need to move on.
It's too much.
This is why we don't do this. And Tony, to answer your question, yes, there are full art fetch lands.
Oh,
Borderless, baby.
fuck me. That's dangerous.
Well, let's fucking get out of here. Let's get into
Let's
some
do it.
salt, guys. We got some salt to talk about, so let's rip it and get into it.
Sam, what's fucking salt, baby?
Ooh, Tony, thank you for asking.
Hell
Salt is frustration in the game, as we like to say. It's really an umbrella term that we use to discuss anything that's frustrating in a game of Magic the Gathering. You can have your small grains of salt, which might be the vibe is off at the table. Maybe somebody isn't quite keeping their deals or they're playing a little bit too powerful, but you can kind of deal with it. And as that salt grows, maybe you're getting pub stomped. People are being disingenuous with the power level conversations before they start a game. People are playing strategies that absolutely hose your deck and you just can't do anything. It's just a complete non-game. Or maybe you didn't mulligan and you have one land in your hand and those other lands just are never fucking coming to you. Salt comes from a lot of things. Other people, your own actions, your own cards. And we talk about it so we can learn from it and hopefully not be salty in a future game. It is an educational podcast, as we like to say.
Well said.
Thank you.
I like that we're like a continuing education kind of thing too, because we're not for kids. So it's really more
We're
of like
not
a
for
night
kids.
school. We're kind of more of a night school kind of thing. Like we're helping you get your GED.
Maybe you two are for kids, but I'm not for kids. I can tell you that much.
Well, you guys ready for our first salty story here?
Hell yeah.
I'm losing my voice today, guys. I'm just going to throw that out before I even read any of these. Last
That
night I
won't
slept
be a
with,
problem for our 5 hours of
I
recording.
know.
I'm sorry, bud. That sucks.
Last night I slept with the windows open and inhaled like all the pollen out of every tree in my whole
Yeah.
neighborhood, and I'm
Nice.
fucking raw today.
Yeah.
How I like you, so.
Got him.
Oh, good shit.
That is good.
All right, so this first one comes to us from David, and the post title is "What's the point of morph if people are going to counter my shit?"
Mm.
And the story goes, "Hello, Salty Crew, emailing you from Dallas, Texas. I wanted to chip in with a little salt story I recently had on Spell Table. In the pod, there is a Kibo deck, which is a buddy of mine, a Zaxara deck, and a Zedrud deck, and my deck, which is the new Disguise Precon with some cards swapped out. Kaust Eyes of the Blade is the commander. The game was running like any other game. Chill in the beginning, then immediately turning salty. Lol. The Zedrud player cast a Slicer, Hired Muscle, which was going around and hitting people in the face for quite a bit of damage. That's kind of spicy in Zedru. A fucking slicer in Zedru. This caused me to kind of focus on him for a little bit because the group hug decks tend to win because they're largely ignored in the beginning of the game. The table started to follow suit. This caused the player to begin whining a bit. Meanwhile, the Zixara deck was shitting out Hydras left and right.
Yeah.
As it do.
That adds up.
Something had to be done. But what could I possibly do with my little precon? Oh my God, I might have an answer. I had a disguised Experiment 12. Then I cast a show-stopping surprise, which would effectively wipe the board. I announced that I was casting this. No one said anything. So, assuming that my spell was resolved, I flipped my Experiment 12, which would turn into an 8/8 and deal 8 damage to the board. The Zixara player, realizing what was going to happen, decides to speak up now to counter the show-stopping surprise. Almost immediately, the Zedru player, who was already kind of getting salted out, started yelling, "You missed your chance. The spell already resolved." The Zixara player argued back that I did not give enough time for priority to pass around. The two started bickering and arguing, saying all sorts of nonsense. The decision on how we ultimately would play this out fell to me. Being the more gracious player I am, I decided to allow the counterspell to resolve, since maybe I wasn't clear to the table that I was casting this spell. Plus, it's easy for people to check out on spell table. It's a casual game. Who gives a shit? This immediately angers the Zedru player. On Zixara's turn, he swings a shit ton of Hydras onto the Zedru player. Zedru player scoops, saying, and I quote, "I see what is happening. This is assault play. You're angry because I wouldn't let you cheat." Meanwhile, the Kibo player is doing fuck all. Get fucked, fourth player.
Eating bananas.
Just eating bananas over there, man. So Zedru scoops. The Kibo player, who's running the spell table, kicks him out for yapping too much. Nice. Then the Zedru player came back to see how it ended. At the end of the day, I learned that when playing a disguise/morph deck, I should be very anal about priority or else people will counter my shit. Lol. Blue is a trash color for trash people. Thank you for reading this garbage. My little pod and I are big fans of the show. Keep up the good work. Much love from Dallas.
Hell yeah.
Well, thanks, David.
Hell yeah.
I want to read a couple of these spells, guys. I don't know about you.
I would love to.
I want to read Show-Stopping Surprise and Experiment 12.
Got show-stopping surprise.
Hit us with that, Mike.
It's 3 and 2 red for an instant, and you choose target creature you control, turn it face up if it's face down. Then it deals damage equal to its power to each other creature. So it's kind of like a Chandra's Blaze? What is
Chandra's Ignition.
Yeah. But it doesn't hit players in the face. It just hits creatures and it flips them up.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So Experiment 12 is a 4/4 elf lizard warrior, costs 3 and a green, trample. Whenever Experiment 12 or another creature you control is turned face up, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature equal to its power. And then it has Disguise, which I'll just read it in case people don't know what it is. It costs 4 and a green. You may cast this card face down for 3 mana as a 2/2 creature with Ward 2. That's like the variation between Morph and Disguise. With Disguise, you get Ward 2. Then you can turn it face up at any time for its Disguise cost. Okay, this is an interesting one. When we first read through it, in my mind, I thought they were flipping the Disguise cost and then resolving the spell, which there still would be time to have priority and do something. But the fact that Show-Stopping Surprise flips the creature, like you truly don't have an opportunity to do anything there. Like that's part of the resolution of the spell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like a question of how much time went by of like casting that spell. And like, is it that the spell is cast and then the result happened and they're like, hey, wait a second, I don't want that to happen? Or was it like a pause? Like as soon as that information's revealed, it does feel a little unfair to like walk it back at that point.
Definitely.
Because then like obviously like it's like that's the whole fucking point.
Yeah.
Like to be able to do it without people knowing. And you take that risk of you stop it or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. David here hit it right on the head of like, it's just one of those decks you're going to have to be really careful with priority. You can do it without giving everything away. Like you can just do a quick, I'm going to cast Show-Stopping Surprise targeting this. Does that resolve? If no one says anything, you can say, okay, Show-Stopping Surprise resolves. And then it's clear, it's the fact that you said it twice. It's like I asked and then I said it and there was a pause there. And if you just say, okay, I cast Show-Stopping Surprise, no matter how long you wait, it's a little fuzzy if you're then like, okay, this flips over. You know, it doesn't have that like clear indication that there are those two moments. So yeah, it's going to be one of those ones where you really want to hit both the question and, okay, now the answer, it is resolving.
I like what you're saying there of like confirming like, okay, it resolves and this is the resolution.
Yeah.
Because like that, I don't think I've ever had somebody do that and then have anybody try and walk something back after that point. They're always like, well, get fucked myself.
Yeah. You'll hear a lot of, I should have at that point, but you won't hear, actually, I'm going to. And that's really what you're trying to avoid at that moment.
For sure.
I think David really encapsulates it perfectly in the post title. What's the point of playing Morph if people are going to counter your shit? Like the whole point of playing Morph is to surprise people with what is unknown under your face down cards. Like that's like the entire thing. And if you are making decisions once that has been revealed, well, it's kind of not the point of the whole fucking mechanic. Like Morph even has ways to like kind of break the rules and circumvent the rules to be able to do this to a degree that other things can't. Like you can flip things up sort of outside of timing restrictions. Morph is weird like that. It's just bad feels all around on this. I think if he had flipped it up and it was a 1/1 and it was dealing 2 damage to everything, I don't think he'd be complaining. I don't think he'd want to counter it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It makes me think of this is something that comes up on like Dungeons and Dragons podcasts that I listen to all the time. If you roll a d20 and it falls off the table and it's a nat 20 on the floor, you're going to be like, that counts, that counts. But if it's a nat 1 on the floor, you're going to be like, I got to
re-roll that bitch. Yeah.
You kind of have to ask yourself in those moments, like, would you still make that same decision if it had been like an unfavorable outcome or a more favorable outcome? Would you have still pushed the counterspell? I don't think you would.
That's a tricky one because I feel like you should be actually thinking about countering that one, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
That card, you should be thinking, you know, it's going to be something big under there. So in a lot of ways, like I kind of hear it from the player saying, oh, well, I meant to respond. It's like, you probably should be responding. So it's like, that makes sense. It wouldn't be shocking that you would counter that in that scenario anyway.
Yeah.
Which is like the only thing that gives me a little bit of like empathy for them, but you do have to respond when it's your time to respond.
Yes.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's very common in Commander for things to just happen to be like, I cast this spell and like I flip this up and they flip it and like this is what happens instead of like, does it resolve? Because that doesn't happen until the spell has resolved, right? But it's very easy, I think, for people to just be like, these are all the things that will happen, assuming it resolves, and like not give it that moment of breath to be like, did it or did it not? Because once the information is revealed, then it like kind of, spoils the surprise.
Yeah, that's the critical thing, like Mike was saying earlier. Real quick before we leave this story, what do you guys think about the Zedru player? Do you think they were justified in scooping?
No, I think they were just fucking whining.
They truly did rewind something and allow somebody to counter it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in a pretty pivotal thing. And then the fact that got countered led to them getting attacked, which granted they scooped before combat damage hit, but it sounds like they were just going to get knocked out.
I think it's one of those things that we don't have enough context to really say probably because from what I've heard, cannot say whether I think it was justified to have rewound and countered it or not. Like if there was enough time presented to do it.
Yeah, I really need to know that pause. That said, there's an element of like for the Zedru player where you feel like someone can't like give you right of way like on the road. You know, like you come to an intersection with like a 4-way stop sign, and it's like if it's your turn to go, you got to be the person to go. Someone can't just like wave you on and give you that right away. Like that messes like the other person coming from the other side coming to see what's going on, then they like smash into you. So it's like, it's kind of that. As the Zedru player, I'm like, come on, can we stick with how it actually is supposed to be working? Like you're clearly just like scumming it up. Let's not fold to that right away.
Mm-hmm.
That said, again, it totally depends on like how reasonable that take back is.
You're right. I think you guys are both right. There's a lot of nuance here that we're missing. I think either way, like it does suck that you had to rewind and counterspell. And honestly, I think I would have done the same thing as David here. I think I also would have allowed the rewind because I think when you're playing with random people on spell table, that's like not really the time to push for that shit. Like if I was playing with you guys, I would be like, get fucked.
Yeah, my scramble verse
you.
resolves, and I don't care.
I feel
what
like
you
we're
think.
all pretty diplomatic around it, and like the other three will speak up and be like, "Oh, I think like you had your chance, or you didn't."
Yeah.
Yep.
Usually the other two people will be like, "Come on," unless, like Sam was saying, it benefits them, and then they'll be like, "Yeah, you really didn't wait for priority at all." Yeah, that guy definitely would have countered. I mean, obviously.
I also feel like that's pretty thinly veiled in our group when,
Yeah.
like, you know, we say it literally with that inflection that you just said it. Like, come on. Actually, I think it's fine.
I think it's pretty clear that any reasonable player.
What do we think about the salt rating here on this one?
I mean, it's high salt. Somebody here scooped. They were salty enough to scoop. And I think these types of takebacks, like we talked about this in the past with things like Ward and stuff like that. These are types of takebacks that kind of circumvent the whole purpose of a mechanic. You know what I mean? Like the whole point of this shit is that you don't know how bad it's going to be until the spell resolves. And if at that point you say, "Oh, wait, I actually wanted to counter it." Wait. No. So I mean, it's also just a sad salt for David, who had this super spicy play, saw like the 1% out from this Hydra player running over everybody, and took it, and then had to do a salty take back. Like, just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It's too salty.
Yeah, that's the part that's really salty to me, is that, like, by all appearances, the board wipe happening in this case and resolving is kind of the thing that's going to lead to a more interesting game, where maybe there's a little more back and forth, more people are kind of in it, or people have chances. And to have that not happen, and instead the Zexara player, they do just take it away, right? In the end, that's Zexara. Isn't that how that game ends?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Kibo was doing fuck all.
Right. Kibo was munching bananas. That's kind of the bummer, is like, it's this sort of awkward, weird take back that really tilts the game in a way that's not necessarily the more fun direction.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, let's do another.
Let's do it, guys. You know what? Here's a crazy idea. Let's do a second story.
Never done that before. First time for everything.
Ever. This next one comes to us from our patron, Shreven. What's up, Shreven?
What up, Shrev?
And this post is titled Super Salt. And it goes, "What up, crusty boys? Got some hot juice for you here." We've been given a lot of things on this show. I don't think we've been given hot juice yet.
It makes me think of, there's a really good hot Kool-Aid sketch from like early YouTube. Just YouTube that and you'll get there. Hot Kool-Aid. It's nice.
There's a line in the show I just did about getting hot orange juice. So yeah,
wrong. Unless there's booze in it and it's a hot toddy, then it's okay.
Nope.
Your toddies have
Just
orange juice though.
Fucking orange juice.
They got a lot of lime juice. It's close.
Citrus.
Just hot citrus. Hot citrus on a cold winter day, dude.
We're going too far. Get back. Go back.
We must stay on track.
Yes, and this game happened about a year ago. My buddy Dave was quite new to the game and lives in a different state, so we were playing on Spell Table. The name of the lobby was like something like Sevens. Dave and stranger number one were going first and second, but had very little to do with the game. I was going third, and the transgressor, we'll call him Mort, was going last. I was playing Myrel, Shield of Argive, no combos, Soldier Kindred. Turn 1, I play a land and pass, and Mort plays a land and passes. Turn 2, I play a land into Mind Stone, and Mort plays a land and passes. Turn 3, I play a land, and my commander, Myrel, Mort, chooses to really change things up. I'm editorializing here, and he plays a land, and he passes. On turn 4, I play Mentor of the Meek and swing at Mort because the other two had blockers. I make 2 soldiers and I pay the 1 and I draw a card. Mort plays a land and passes. Turn 5, I move to combat and swing at Mort to pay a few and draw a few more cards. But before this happens, Mort gets fully iodized. Oh, I get it. Morton's iodized salt.
Nice.
It just dawned on me right now.
Nice.
He flips out that I'm pub stomping and it's bullshit. I don't know how he does it, but he makes a super loud screeching sound come through his audio and howls that his salty objective now is to make it so that I'm not allowed to play anymore. You can't mute people, so my buddy booted him from the lobby. We weren't super savvy about spell table at the time, so we didn't think to change the game to private, which is what ended the game because the guy rejoined. So we booted him again, and he rejoined. I've played enough Magic to know an infinite loop when I see one.
It does result in a draw.
But we still tried booting him a few more times. Amidst the shrieks, Stranger One suggested that we report Mort, to which he replied, "Go for it. I'll just make another account. I'm already on my 5th one."
Yikes, Mort.
That's not good, dude.
Self-reflect a little bit, dude.
Just a little bit of emotional intelligence, Mort.
What are you guys talking about? He's smart. He just made a new account when they banned his old one.
Oh,
he's
true.
like, he's good to go.
True.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Are you guys not thinking about this right? Like, come on.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Possibility is the end-all be-all on morality. If you can do something, you should do it.
Definitely.
That's how that works. Yeah.
Also, the probability that Tony is Mort, it just increased a little bit. It's not a lot, but it's not 0.
Guys, that can't be me because I'm on my 10th fucking spell table account. So
somehow, without being to see each other's faces, the 3 of us shared a look and then agreed to just end the game. Myrel is a strong commander, and I had a good start, but this has got to be the most extreme reaction I've ever encountered. Especially if you're going last and you keep a hand where you don't have any plays until at least turn 5. The dude literally played 0 spells and then was pissed when the aggro deck did an aggro. I didn't even do that much damage to him. It would have been a total of 6 damage. I know every deck is a 7, but if you play 0 spells, maybe your deck isn't a 7 and you should get good, you fucking scrub. Or maybe I'm the asshole. I await your judgment and will tear up my Mentor of the Meek if you decide it's too powerful to play in a 7s pod. Stay crusty, Shrev.
Keep that Mentor untorn.
Yeah.
Please.
only if it's borderless.
It's fucking ridiculous, dude. I feel like Shreven had the most common turn structure here. Like land, second turn, land, and a 2-mana rock. Mind Stone, the one that's in every single fucking precon. Turn 3, play a land, and then you play your 4-drop commander. Yeah, it makes sense. And then you're truly just attacking with mostly 1/1s just to get card draw. That's like not that crazy.
It's very normal even.
Yeah, like I would expect that shit. I would expect that from that deck.
What's more normal is to attack the person that is giving you a free attack.
Yes.
Like, if you're fucking wide open, I'm coming in. Like, there's no stopping me at that point. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Purely for the ease of mental load. If you have no creatures, I don't have to think about if that attack is safe or not.
Yeah,
I
dude.
know for sure it is.
Yeah, and what sucks for you is I'm going to do it probably for 3 turns and then be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'll swing somewhere else now.
Yeah, I'm going to do it
And then
until I
I'll
can't.
look at the blocks and be like, actually, I'm still just coming in at you.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Also, like Myrel makes these 1/1s on attacks, and clearly Shreven is using it to draw with the Mentor of the Meek. Like, it's not like he's like, I'm gonna fucking finish you with commander damage, baby. Here it comes. He's like, I'm drawing for card advantage because that's what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah, and you're making that free.
Yeah, and exactly. And you're making it completely free. Like, fucking play something, dude.
But Mentor of the Meek busted. Fucking's going in all the CDH decks next. Like,
Dude, I mean, it's pretty cracked in Marath. Let me just say that. It's not. It's not.
all of a sudden, the Marath Discord is like popping off.
Like,
all 5
whoa.
people in it are like, "What's
Mentor of the
happening?"
Meek. Whoa, there's at least 12, dude. Come on.
Nice.
Better active. I think the thing that's really wild is not doing anything until turn 5. Like,
Yeah.
this person kept a dookie hand. They must have kept such a shitty hand.
What was their commander? Is that in the story? Is that labeled?
Does it matter?
No.
It matters a little bit because, like, how are they not even playing that? Like, if you have a 6-mana commander, you better be ramping there on turns 1 through 5, at least.
and play without honor, Mike. This is fair magic.
Ugh.
Yeah, this is 7 Magic. Maybe you missed the lobby title.
Yeah.
Ugh.
No commander details.
I gotta say, I kind of love that he kept rejoining the game. And I'm sorry, you guys should have fucking known. Like, we're the modern day. Somebody should have known you can make
that's
it
funny.
private. Like,
or just fucking been like, it's done, Which I guess they ended up doing that. But if that person kept rejoining and screeching, I think I have I think I have 2 of those in me before I fucking leave. Before I'm like, I'm fucking done, man. I'm so done. I text my buddy on the side. I'm like, I'm out. I don't give a shit. I can't hear this dude scream.
I'm imagining it so many ways, and all of them are kind of glorious from like the outside looking in. Like if I was in it, I would be very upset.
Yeah, it
but
would
from
be
the
frustrating.
outside, it feels very good.
That infinite loop line is fucking good.
Yeah,
that is
funny.
good. What do we think about the salt rating on this one? I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a full shaker for Mort, you know?
Yeah,
It's a full screecher.
it's a full screecher.
Man, I feel like I've been saying this line a lot lately. It's probably not good. I probably should not say it a lot, but when you're stupid, everything gets you fucking salty, man. You know, like when you don't fucking understand what's happening, of course you're gonna get salty. Like it's just wild to me. You don't play anything by turn 5, and then you're mad that someone's dealt 6 damage to you. That's not pub stomping, dude. You've never been pub stomped. You know what a charmed life Mort has lived.
Yeah.
Where they're like, yeah, I play in my pod all the time, and none of us even cast a spell until turn 8. And then we only do damage when we're gonna win on the winning turn. Like the ultimate battle cruiser person is Mort. Ugh.
I do hate about a 7-ish in a spell table title though. Like you are looking for trouble when you label your room that way. Like you're either gonna get people that get that it's a meme and then show up and are like, okay, but I have no idea what to play because this is a meme. Or you're going to get people that like really, really legitimately, truly believe that 7 is a good estimate of their deck. And they're going to have a vastly different understanding of what that is from what you understand. Like this case here for Mort.
You guys are wrong. Mort's was clearly a 7. Everyone else would pub something. Period.
I mean, Myrel does see play in CDH, so truly we don't know, you know? We just don't know if this isn't a CDH decker or not. We do. We do know.
We're aware. We're pretty aware.
Yeah, we're acutely aware of this, actually.
Hell yeah.
Ridiculous, man. Love that. Well, thanks, Trevin. That was a fucking good one, dude.
How about one more?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do one more. All right, this next one comes to us from our buddy Tom, and this post is titled New Player Experiences First Salty Encounter.
Ooh. Well, virgin salt action. Love that.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
It didn't have to be bad. It was good. I thought it was good.
Like olive oil. Like olive oil. Not
exactly.
Like
get your mind out of the gutter,
else.
bro.
Nice.
Yeah.
Extra virgin.
Extra virgin. Oh.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
yes.
extra virgin is the olive oil.
No, I know. I know it is, but I meant like, that's not what you meant.
It is.
That's what I meant. I'm talking about olive oil. What are you talking
I
about?
don't even know anymore.
Yes, and olive oil. And this story goes, I'm a new player and just came across your podcast and really enjoy it. Thanks, Tom. That's
fucking
great.
slaps.
I'm
Thanks,
glad.
Tom.
Yeah, thanks. It's because it's a fucking great show, man.
And humble as hell, too.
I remembered a game from when I first started playing a couple months ago that I thought might be worth sharing with y'all. I started learning right before Ixalan pre-release events and was really excited to go to an LGS and play. I did a lot of research, but figured I would go 0-3 in the sealed deck event that I signed up for, but I thought it would be fun anyways. Good attitude, dude.
Great attitude. This is such a perfect attitude.
I had about 2 weeks of Magic knowledge under my belt and was a little overwhelmed when I showed up at the LGS and there were like 50 people there, all of whom seemed really knowledgeable. Some of them were nice and provided some insight while I was building my deck. In my first matchup, I held my own, but lost 2-1. I was encouraged that the deck I built seemed to be competitive at least, even if I had a lot to learn still. In my second matchup, I felt like I had a better deck and I played aggressively. Game 1 I lost, but by a very small amount. But it started to click for me how the mechanics were working. I think my opponent could tell I was new because I asked a lot of questions about interactions and definitely made some mistakes that they corrected. In Game 2, I drew Aklazot's Deepest Betrayal. And it provided a Scryfall link. What a dope person.
Yeah.
And here's where the salt began. My opponent, we will call them Elijah Wood, was instantly triggered by this card. At the first opportunity, let's fucking read this card real quick.
I can't wait to see why it's Elijah Wood. I hope there's a connection.
too.
It could just be because we asked people to say celebrity names and we're just getting
be.
one with no context, which would also be
I
great.
just assumed it was because there was like a vacant expression on their face the entire time, and then they cry at the end. Yeah.
So Aklazot's Deepest Betrayal costs 3 and 2 black. It's a 4/4 legendary creature bat god. It's got flying and lifelink, and it says whenever Aklazot's attacks, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card. Whenever an opponent discards a land card, you create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. And when it dies, you return to the battlefield tapped and transformed. It's one of the Lost Caverns of Ixalan gods that turns into a land, and then the land taps for black, and you can pay 3 and tap it to transform it, but only if a player has 1 or fewer cards in hand. So it's some discard synergy, which, I get why people don't like that.
It's also a beast in limited, because by the time you're playing this, forcing a discard and then someone needs to remove it.
Brutal.
Yeah, they've burned through a lot of resources. They're probably pretty low on cards in hand.
So Elijah Wood was immediately triggered by this card. At their first opportunity, Elijah used whatever removal they had in their hand to destroy the Aklazots. Unfortunately for them, you can easily bring back Aklazots unless it is exiled. So I did just that at my first opportunity and used the card to close out Game 2. Game 3 was more of the same, as I drew Aklazots in the mid-game and had a strong enough board presence at that point that it easily helped me close that one out too. Elijah Wood was seething, as if someone just stole... Okay. As if someone had just stolen something very precious of theirs.
Nice.
I don't know if it's because they lost to a new player or because they were now 0 and 2 in the event, or because Aklazots is so difficult to remove, especially in limited formats. But I will say that both of the other opponents I faced had removal that exiled Aklazots. This was my first time playing Paper Magic and my first real win in a Magic game. I was hyped. But I'm a pretty low-key guy, and I could see Elijah Wood was pissed, so I empathized and downplayed my victory while celebrating in my head. Lol. What made me mad was that Elijah Wood didn't engage with me in conversation after the game. Instead, they turned to the people on either side of them, neither of whom seemed to be part of their fellowship. Fucking good. Some good shit. And proceeded to rage about how they lost to Aklazots and how it's such a broken card. Their tirade, which continued for quite a while after our match, didn't give me any credit. It was all this one card. The one card to rule them all. They made me pull out the card and show these onlookers. I got pretty uncomfortable at this point and began putting my things away to move on to the next match. They got so salty, I was getting salty myself. I felt like I deserved some credit. I don't think this is a significant salt on your scale, but it was my first encounter with MTG Salt, and I ask, how would you have handled this? I didn't want to burn any bridges and would have liked to make some friends at the LGS so I have more people to play with. So while I thought about savaging Elijah Wood by telling them how they got outplayed by someone who didn't know what Magic was 2 weeks ago, get fucked, you loser. Instead, I just got up and moved on to the next match, which wound up being a draw against a super nice opponent. Anyways, sorry for the long story. I wanted to get this off my chest, and I'm glad your podcast exists to provide a place for salty stories. Have a good day, y'all. And fuck boo players. You're all trash. Thanks, Tom.
Hell yeah, Tom.
That's a great story, man. Well written. I love the Elijah Wood shit in there. That was like the little Easter egg, I fucking love that. I do really dislike that. That's something that I don't know if we've really talked about, which is people blaming a specific card when it's really like player skill getting the win. And I do think that happens a lot. I think honestly we do that a lot too, where you'll be like, well, it's just because you had that stupid fucking card or whatever, I think it's kind of a natural thing when you're salty to blame the game piece that fucked you over versus blaming like your opponent's skill in getting the win.
I feel like it's much more common in like sealed and limited formats.
Yeah.
Because usually it is a bomb that somebody has that like you feel like that's what I lost to. And it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that like, no, there's like so many decisions that are made in limited, like way more than Commander. Because everything's very like back and forth. Like 1 to 2 life matters a lot. Because you're at like 20. Like, do I swing on this turn? Do I not? Like, what could they have in their hand? Do I hold back? Like, do I use resources on something they have? Because you have like less of a pool usually to gather from. And like the creation of the deck was also the starting point of it all, right?
Yeah.
Like they made that deck from what they had.
Yeah.
But I think it's easy to feel like, oh, I lost to that thing. And like, I didn't get good cards when I fucking, built my deck or in my pool or whatever. So fuck you.
Yeah.
it's tough because limited is a format of bombs. Like it's based around it. It's almost core to the philosophy of limited is like you're looking for those and then you're looking for removal to deal with the bombs. And then you're looking for like acceleration or advantage, card advantage to get you to those bombs, you know, like, and then sometimes formats don't have quite the density of bombs and it's a little more grindy or mid-range or something. But most of the time it's very classic to follow that structure. And if you want to beat decks that have bombs and you haven't drafted one or you didn't open one in one of your packs, unfortunately, then you really need to figure out how to have the removal and how to have a game plan, which is like really more possible in a game 3 like this. Like, I don't know what the other player was playing on, but if you're in a limited format playing a 3-game match, Akhlazatz is often the card you're going to bring in your like Broken Wings in, or your destroy target creature with flying. Like you're going to find your single card that does exile and slot that back into the deck, even though it costs 3 extra mana. And so people will get like really defeated and upset about a bomb, but you also need to think about it if you want to succeed in a limited format sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of just bad breaks. Like limited has that additional layer of variance on top of it. Because Magic already has so much variance. We talk about it all the time. Like sometimes your opponent just draws the right card and you do get fucked. And it isn't that it's the card doing it, like it's the deck builder. You know, it's still your opponent's skill in assembling the deck, choosing to put that in, playing it at the right moment and stuff like that. But there's this additional layer of variance of like, what are you getting in your packs? And sometimes your bomb is a fucking craw worm, and sometimes your bomb is Akhlazatz and it's flying and very hard to remove and makes you discard. So I get being frustrated with it, but I think that this person is aiming their frustrations at the card kind of as a coping mechanism with the salt. I almost feel like for them to turn to their neighbors at the table and kind of be like, this card's so fucking broken and stuff like that, they are kind of taking it out on you a little bit. I think by pointing to the card and being like, oh, it was just the card, it wasn't you, it wasn't your skill. Not that they're explicitly saying that stuff, but kind of implying it. I think it's a dig. And when you're really, really salty, sometimes you look for opportunities to, all you can do is hurt your opponent, you know?
Yeah.
And if it is that bad faith, I think that's a perfectly reasonable time to just throw in like oh yeah, I sure am glad I opened this. This is only my first time ever playing, so having a bomb is really helping me, hang out in these games.
Yeah.
Like reflecting that back, there is honestly an element where if someone knew it was your first game, maybe they would have been able to have a little more excitement for you also. Like that's not for sure, but like maybe they can take solace in the fact that they are your first victory, that they've made you just olive oil.
So the question here is, how would we have handled this? Personally, I would have handled it the exact same way you did. I think it's fun in hindsight to come up with these like witty responses and things you could say. In the moment, I don't want any of that smoke, man. I see that my opponent is fucking salting off, and I just would remove myself from the situation. Like, it's a shame that this was your first salt and one of your first real victories in the game, and then it kind of happened at the same time and soured it a bit. But like salt like this is a very normal thing, and it happens, and it has probably happened to you by now. And if it hasn't yet, it probably will at some point. Like, we all have bad breaks, and we all have games that we lose because of certain cards that come out and really just fuck over your shit. I think that you handled it well. Don't let it sour your experience at this LGS. That dude is in a bad mood. And honestly, that opponent may be an awesome person, but they just got salty and were having a bad night. I mean, you did say that they were 0-2, so they were coming off of another loss in a previous match as well. I would take those moments with a grain of salt,
Yeah, I agree. I'd handle it very similarly. And if anything, look for the people that aren't interacting with that rage, because they're probably people that are a little more interesting for you to try and, seek a friendship out. Like, if they're clearly not interested in talking to someone that is raging and being a little salty gremlin, that they're more likely to want to talk to someone that's just trying to engage in a good faith conversation.
Definitely.
I think I would take my cards, riffle shuffle them, cringe a little bit on the side, but not so that he can see, tell him to get good, and then walk away.
Definitely. Yeah. Like they said, get fucked, you loser.
Yeah. Well, Samuel.
I feel like we kind of gave a salt rating for that one. It was sort
that
of
was
our
rated.
advice,
That was
right?
Basically was it.
That was
I feel like
rated.
it's like
That counts. That counts. Cool. Cool.
As I was saying, Samuel.
Yes, Tony.
Is it that time of the fucking week, baby?
Ooh. Ooh. I think it is that time of the week, Tony. It's the time of the week that comes.
Do I get a veto on the intro to this or what?
Definitely not. You get no ability to
please
do
keep it
anything.
down.
This is settle down over there. I don't know what the fuck's going on. What you think you're doing, but it's not right.
I think it is that time of the week, Tony. It's the time of the week that comes every week.
Every fucking week, baby.
It's the time of the week where we say, Mike.
Mike.
Yes.
What's the salty card of the week?
The salty card of the week this week is...
Oh, my pod, my playgroup, I hunger for your salt every game night. And time goes by so slowly, especially on Tony's turns.
Oh my God,
because they're so long.
This is literally fake news.
You're disrupting me, man. I'm on a fucking roll here.
I'm providing colorful commentary.
Tony's turns go very long, very long. My turns always are fine. Tony takes a long time on his turns every game. My turns are always great. And Mike is also fine.
Fuck you.
It's just Tony with his long turns. They're always so motherfucking long. Oh, I need you to pass your turn, Tony. Oh, I need you to pass your turn. You played 2 spells and took 20 minutes.
This is
of the
literally
game.
I hate you. People are gonna think that's actually how it goes, and it's literally not.
They're just lyrics to a song.
People are going to start singing that. We're going to start singing that whenever they sit down for a game with you and you take more than 30 seconds in a turn.
You know, they're just lyrics to a song. I don't know what you're talking about.
But,
it's like Key and Peele skit.
When you started on the O, I thought you were going to go into O Canada.
No one has requested that. Maybe someone will.
I hope somebody does.
Oh, now it's someone's going to.
That was Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers, and that was requested by Thoughtmas Prime. And I did not do it justice because my throat is all horrible because of the allergies.
I think it was good. I think actually it was one of the first times of really getting some of that bass.
It was better when I was practicing it earlier in the shower. Man.
Maybe you should have practiced less.
Truthfully, yes.
Well, thanks, Sam. That was a lovely, salty song of the week.
Thank you.
The salty card of the week this week is Grave Pact.
Ooh, oh, gross.
Is this all I think I really remember is black, black, black 1?
Yeah, it is
you don't
1
like
and triple black for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature.
Oh, yeah. This fucking card.
How do you feel about this one, Tony?
I don't fucking like this card, though. I will admit I have put it in a deck or two. I didn't even like it when I played it. Like when I played it, I think I might have had it in like Grenzo or something at some point.
I think it was in Hapatra.
Oh yeah, it probably wasn't in Hapatra. That makes sense. It's just like it comes down and everybody's like, ugh. Like nobody's happy about it. This is like Will Breaker in that it breaks the spirit of the table. Like it comes down and literally everybody's like audibly upset about it. And if you can see their faces, they're visually upset as well. And I mean, obviously it's a powerful effect. Like there's plenty of decks that want to like do that. It's almost no different than like the Edict Effecty kind of decks that are just like fucking pumping out creatures that say play this creature, everybody sacks 1. Those effects are just really taxing and slow the game down. which we know is something that Tony doesn't love. So it's totally powerful. I get why some fucking sickos like it. I used to like it, but when I saw the light leave the eyes of my friends the last time, I was like, this isn't worth it anymore. At what cost, like is what it sort of boiled down to for me.
Yeah, $13.99. That's the cost of seeing the light.
I'm surprised it's that much.
Actually, $10.99 on somewhere in there. Nice. How about you, Sam? Does this one make you salty?
Yeah, I this card makes me super salty. I feel the same way with Tony. Like, this is one of those cards that I used to really enjoy playing, because when you're playing lower powered Magic, I don't think it's as horrible because you're probably not abusing it as bad. And maybe we just didn't know better at the time. But as like our deck's power crept, especially my Gave list, as that got better and better and stronger, man, this card was fucking brutal. And same with like Butcher of Malakir or any of those edict effects where it's like one of my creatures dies, one of your creatures dies.
Yep.
Generally speaking, you have a deck that can generate tokens very easily, like a Gave list or something like that. So it's not going to bother you at all to just be doing this. It's just what you're doing anyways. And the incidental value you're getting is that your opponents lose every creature they have. And it just leads to such non-games. It's something where people pretty much are always going to scoop or get frustrated or something like that. So I have started taking this out of decks. I will say, since we've embraced trash Magic, I think I put something like this back into my Gave list. Either this, the Butcher of Malakir.
Dictate of Erebos is the
Dictate of Erebos maybe is the one that I have in there. So I still have one like in my card pool, but for the most part, I don't like to play these cards, and I save them for when like no holds barred, we're doing some bullshit. How do you feel about this one, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely that. Like this hits its sweet spot in high power casual / like trash Magic kind of things. It is very good when you're going to make good use of it. The floor on this card isn't terrible. It's sort of like an insurance policy for people that are removing your stuff. It's like, okay, well, then you're going to have to sack something. So maybe it deflects that. But the ceiling, if you're like looping sacrifice effects, gets really, really painful. And of course, that's what I run this kind of effect in. I run this in Aura for me. So it's just like cleric looping recursion kind of stuff. And exactly what you guys says, like it definitely slows the game down. It also has this weird effect where like some decks don't really get affected by it very much. Like if I'm playing Aura into a heavy token deck, like their tokens are actually going to keep up with my ability to do sacrifices and force people. But the Voltron player at the table, they're totally screwed by this, So sometimes it has like a weird imbalanced effect on how much it actually slows down your opponents, which can actually be like really ineffective for you also, because you need it to deal with everyone a little bit.
Your life. Well, where does it sit on the list?
What a wonderful question. Why don't you guys take some guesses?
I got mine.
I have mine too.
I'm going with a 48 on this one.
48.
I'm hitting 72, baby.
Tony takes it. It is
Let's
115.
Let's fucking go.
Oh, sub 100? I'm surprised.
Yeah, over 100.
I wonder if that's because it's just kind of been like kind of socially soft banned almost.
Yeah,
that's true. I feel like that's the only reason it's crept up, because I feel like it was earlier on the list or maybe on the top 100 in the past. Maybe I'm just misremembering, but in my heart, it was always on the top 100 because I don't like it.
Yeah, no, it was not.
How many decks run it right now? How many decks is it in?
Right now, it's in 4% of the decks it could be in. So 83,000. It is quite a few. That's
a lot more. Because it has kind of been like socially phased out, at least in most of the pods that I play in. I do not see these effects come up because I think people know that they're punishing and that they're just not fun to play through.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing. It really like sucks the fun out of the game. Like talk about cards that suck the fun out of Magic. This is one of those.
Yeah, it does do it.
It comes down and I'm just like, why are we even fucking here anymore? And like, there's always this awkwardness of like, I could just scoop, but if the other two people aren't going to scoop so that we can like do a new game, then I'm just sitting there watching. So like, we almost naturally all are kind of looking at each other and not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like just dick around for like another 3 or 4 turns. And eventually like, okay, let's just fucking scoop now. Like,
yeah.
Because you're trying to play to your outs. Like you want to give the player a chance, but it just, again, sucks all the fucking fun out of Magic.
Yep. Fuck this fucking card, dude.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
Like,
that
literally.
wraps it up for the salty card of the week on that note.
Well, thanks, Mike.
Thanks for playing.
That was a lovely salty card. And thank you to all of our prospectors out there for listening. You know, we got to shout out our Salt Packet Plus tier members. And this week we have Thotimus Prime, Rothbox, Sire Speedy, Bobo Fett, Brandon Mousecop, Chameleon, Brimstone, Captain Cross, Clearbrook, D. Beeson, Gilgamesh, Doug's Dad, Bark Bark, Magic Lilith Rose, Ebes, JS Evolved, Kylock, Not a Frog, Pez, Swankub, and Vok. Thank you all for being so awesome and supporting our show. And thank you to every other prospector out there for tuning into another episode of the Howling Salt Mine. We appreciate you all tuning in every single week to hang out with us. And if you're looking for more Howling Salt Mine content, check out the Patreon. You know, we have our Extra Salt series, our once a month show that we're doing. We also have all the stray grains that we're putting up there. It's all of the little bits and segments that don't make it into the final cut of the episodes. Those all get dropped into Patreon for our patrons to listen to. And we also do some funny additional episodes. Like we have our Lost episode on there from the very, very early days of the podcast. We have our first episode of Off the Rails, which is our occasional bonus content where we kind of ramble about something we're passionate about outside the Magic space. We even have our anniversary episode, HSM Listens to HSM, where we listened back to our episode 1 of the podcast and provided commentary over it. And we're probably going to be doing that again coming up for our 2nd year anniversary. So check it out. The Discord's popping. We got a great community there. We have a thriving music league right now, which is a ton of fun. And if you like the MH3 conversation that we had in this episode, all of that is coming from the Discord. We've been chatting about that shit nonstop because it kind of has been nonstop. Another way that you can support the podcast is to send us your salty stories. Submit those on our website, thehowlingsaltmine.com or howlingsaltmine.com, or you can email them to us at our Gmail, which is thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com. Another way that you can support the show is to check out our merchandise. We got our playmats over at Jank Mats. We have our awesome t-shirts over at our Bonfire store. You can pick up a Blues a Trash Color for Trash Players shirt. You can pick up a 1-800 Are You Flappin' shirt. Check all that stuff out. There's tons and tons of options out there. Get your summer fit ready with some Howling Salt Mine swag. Another way that you can support the show is to give us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app of choice. Whether that's Spotify or Apple Podcasts, your review goes a long way to help us stick out in the algorithm and get suggested to new listeners. So that's something that we really, really appreciate, and it's completely free for you to do to support the show. Lastly, you know we got to shout him out, our buddy Devin Burnett, for giving us our beautiful podcast art. If you're ever in Asheville, North Carolina, hit him up and get a tattoo because he's a really cool guy.
10,000 subscribers are bust, baby.
Indeed.
Nice.
Thanks, everybody. And as always, stay salty. And don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
The cards are just neat too, which is great. Like there's a lot of interesting things that they're willing to do because it's a horizon cycle like that.
Yeah.
I also remembered that was bullshit that I had to just fill in. What I actually
Nice.
yeah,
I
what
do
I
that too
remembered
sometimes.
that I wanted to say.
Oh, fuck. What's assault?
Oh no.
How
dare you?
Hey, take it again. Do a clean one. It'll
Yeah,
be
hey.
like you didn't even miss it.
I was perfect before, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I think I'm just gonna stick with my heart here. And
Listen to your heart. Ooh, different. We chose different keys.
I don't really know the words.
Yo, you hearing this?
No.
Oh,
I mean, I just hear it
I
naturally.
just hear a bird.
It's interesting.
there's an
There's an ice cream truck.
Oh, really?
Ice cream truck.
Damn.
And it was like jamming its tunes, so I thought it would be audible. That's sad.
Kind of obnoxious
posted
that you
up.
can hear the fucking bird, but you can't hear that ice
Yeah,
cream
that's
truck.
what I'm sad about.
It's like, it's very surprising to me. Sam in the editing room. These nuts are moist because there's no AC right now. Just wanted you to know. Okay, cool. Bye.
This is kind of great though, because now we get to say stupid, silly stuff that Sam's going to hear on the edit. He's going to be like, "What's this? What's this audio blip in the middle of me being gone?" And it's going to be us talking about how nice and funny he is.
That's just eating into the mics.
And eating into the mics, yeah.
Because we're humble, handsome, and hung. No, I can't leave that
Oh
in.
no.
Oh no.
I can't leave that in. I was looking for H alliterations and my mind was already in the gutter, so I just had to go there.
Could have been happy. Could have been hungry.
Oh
Could've
yeah,
been-
and hungry for salt. There you go.
Could have been happening.
Because we're happening, handsome, humble, and hungry for salt, baby.
And hung.
Hung.